The night has come, it's cold and losing my control. Your light is gone, and lonely darkness fill my soul. I wish that you could save me from my isolation. It's way too complicated. Let's stop this conversation. Let's stop this conversation. We got no relation.
Good evening, and if you're just tuning in live, you are either listening to us or watching us on UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio Network. You can listen to us on 105.3 FM in the Gulf Coast in Mississippi and 107.7 FM out of the beautiful city of New Orleans, Louisiana, where we're actually broadcasting from. This is the Angel Rock, and I'm your host, Lorilei Potvin. A little bit about myself. I'm a Canadian psychic medium, crystal Reiki energy healer, Akashic Records practitioner, spiritual teacher and mentor, as well as a registered nurse. I'm an animal communicator. I'm well versed in near-death experiences, having had one as a toddler myself, and I've studied them professionally and personally for over 40 years. And I'm also extremely well versed in the paranormal. I always say we didn't go looking for it. It found us in our previous home. We've actually shared our story on the Travel Channel's Paranormal Survivor. It's season 4, episode 9, called Demonic Hauntings. And you guys know I always say my little spiel. I forgot to warn our poor guests what they forgot. I got a little bit of a spiel to go through first, but thank you patiently for waiting. She's first-time guest on here. You guys are going to love her. Anyways, you can find that on YouTube. I think it's on Netflix. It's all over the place. And you're going to see a familiar face in there that I did not know her at the time when we filmed this years ago. But she is now a big part of our network, and it's Michelle DeRoche. She was one of the professional consultants on our case for the show. And she's the host of Beyond the Outer Realm on Tuesdays from 2 to 3:30, and then her 2-night big show on Wednesday and Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, called The Outer Realm. And she's also our station manager. I want to give a huge shout out also to Joe Montaldo. He also lets me borrow his Rumble because his Rumble is bigger than mine. We're streaming there tonight. And we were broadcasting out of his beautiful home in New Orleans, out in the bayou. I've never been there, but I've seen pictures. It's absolutely beautiful. Also want to thank Carnation. Carnation sponsors all the live shows here on Mondays. It's known as Carnation Mondays. So Carnation is a global brand. So if you're out shopping and, if you're getting ready for any of the holidays maybe that are coming up in the next month or so, well, throughout the year as well, and you see something by Carnation, please consider supporting them because they support us and bring all the wonderful shows that are on this network. We do stream multiple shows 7 days a week live, and when we're not streaming live, the archive server kicks into the last 25 plus years this network's been around, and we do broadcast to every country in the world, believe it or not. But 80 to 85% of our audience is audio only. I always say if you want to join the conversation, because this show is very audience participative, and so is my second one I'll mention in a second. And I say you need to see us to join the conversation. So you very quickly, I'll rattle off. If you want to come, because you're probably going to hear us answer questions, read comments, you're going to say, well, where are those? Why can't I join in? This is how you can. Under my name, Lorilei Potvin, you can go to my main Facebook profile. I'm also on LinkedIn under Lorilei Potvin, The Angel Rock. My YouTube, which is The Angel Rock with Lorilei Potvin. We are streaming on Instagram, which is The Angel Rock 1508. We are also streaming under the network's main YouTube channel and Facebook profile, which is UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio Network, as well as Twitch by the same name, and again under Joe Montaldo's Rumble channel. So thank you, Joe. We're also streaming to my guest's Facebook profile, and I'm going to introduce her, I promise, in just a few seconds here, and you can also watch on hers as well, and I'll let her give you guys the name of that too. What do I want? I don't want to forget to mention anything. I have a checklist here. Lastly, if you guys want to watch us on TV, You can. We have our own. Oh, see, I always know my computer loves to unplug, you guys, so forgive me. I just saw it. It goes a little dull on me. Anyways, you can watch us on TV. The network does have its own TV channel. You're going to go to Roku, the channel store, and go into the search. I think it's the search bar up on the right hand side, whether you're in the app or on your TV screen. You're going to type in UFO space P as in paranormal. There's a drop down list. You're looking for the third or fourth one down under UFO paranormal and United Public Radio. And that's how you can watch us. Now, I did say I was going to mention my second show. How could I forget? I co-host with my very close friend and amazing co-host, Carrie Lynn Shellhorn, on Thursdays here on UPRN, 7:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, beneath the hollow moon. Carrie Lynn is also host of her own show here on the network on Fridays called Spirit Switchboard at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, I'm going to give you guys a reminder. We always are looking for haunted stories or spooky experiences, but also Carrie Lynn and I are going to be broadcasting Christmas night, 7:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and New Year's Day. Christmas night, we have decided two things. First of all, Carrie Lynn came up with this beautiful idea. As most of you know, my youngest son passed away very unexpectedly this past January 15th, 2025, and he had severe autism. He ate 6 foods, and he loved chicken nuggets and fries. So Carrie Lynn and I are going to, on Christmas night, be having chicken nuggets and french fries in honor of Justin. And we've decided that we're having the haunted holiday hotline. So if you guys have a quick spooky story or something you want to share that's a little strange or unusual, or a picture or something, we're going to be setting that up before Christmas night. So you can share your spooky stories for our show Beneath the Hollow Moon or the Christmas episode. You can send them to Carrie Lynn's porch@gmail.com. Or you can reach out to me also on any social media platform, and Carrie Lynn too. Let us know. We'd love to have your story. I know I've got one person for sure who's coming in, and let me tell you, I know he's going to have a spooky story for sure, for sure. Finally did it all, you guys. Thank you for your patience, Fotoula. So let me read you Fotoula's biography here once I get I'm all decked out for Christmas. I don't really feel like celebrating, so I'm really trying to make the most of it, getting in the Christmas spirit here. So Fotoula Adrimi, who is an honors BA, which I think is a Bachelor of Arts, please forgive me if I'm wrong, and a master's as well, is a partner in the ISIS School of Holistic Health, a school of healing arts, spiritual development, and inner transformation. The school teaches the path of the living light, the spirituality of the golden times in ancient Egypt. Prior to this, she has studied Reiki, Sekhem, and SourceSTAR, and in brackets it says Master Teacher level. Fotoula's other passion is shamanism, which runs in her blood from her paternal side. She's an active member of the Global Shamanic. I want to make sure I have your book up here and I get it right. Forgive me for that. She's an active member of the Global Shamanic Teachers Network created by Sandra Ingerman. And I hope, I was just thinking of you, Julie Jean Bassett. There you are. She's our resident shamanic practitioner here in the group, too. So I was
Lovely
hoping
to meet you.
to tune in. Fotoula also, she teaches shamanic practitioner courses, as well as introductory and advanced shamanic workshops, both in classic shamanism and from her own great heritage. Since 1999, Fotoula has lived and worked in Glasgow, Scotland, UK. She's also taught in Greece, Germany, and the Netherlands, and led spiritual pilgrimages. Sorry, my mouth doesn't want to work tonight. To Egypt and sacred sites in the UK. You are also an author, and we're going to be talking about your newer book, Sacred Mysticism of Egypt: The Ancient Path of Heka Initiation. Welcome. That's quite a bio. I know you got a longer one, and I was going to read it all, and I thought our good friend Gavin did a good job of just putting all the important points in there. So welcome.
Thank you very much, Laura. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. And thank you to everybody who is watching or listening.
Okay, so what's the name of your Facebook if they want to watch? And then we're going to say hi to everybody before we jump into everything. But because your channel's working beautifully, I can see it.
Wonderful, wonderful. So it's the Facebook is just my name, Fotoula Adrimi. So if you type that, you should be able to watch the show.
Good. Good. So we're going to say hi to everybody. We always do. We always like to give everybody a shout out. I always say I try to treat people the way I know I like to be treated because I mainly watch a lot of YouTube. And if it's a super busy show and there's like 1,000 people in the chat or something, no, I don't expect them to acknowledge the audience. But I've been to lives before where there's a manageable group like what's here, and the host never ever looks at the chat, and sometimes it's like, but I have a question. So I always like to make them feel like they're welcome here. So that's why I do this. So we've got Z-Sun Dragon, or as I call him by his muggle name, Kevin. He's saying hello. We got Vet Girl 84. Thank you both for being here. Let you guys all know we were coming. It was me. A few minutes behind. We were getting all the tech stuff all settled. We've got Michelle visiting in with us early morning from the future in Australia. I know it's early Tuesday morning. She says, good day. Let's see. Everybody likes to say hi to one another too, which we love. Everybody's still saying hi. Oh, and they're all saying hi to you too, Fotoula.
Hello, everybody.
We've got Julie Jean Bassett. Now, as I said, Julie Jean Bassett is a resident shamanic practitioner. She's been on the Angel Rock many times. She's a mentor as well as a good friend of mine. I've had a session actually with her that was life-changing just over a year ago, but she's also an incredible animal communicator, and I took her beginner animal communication course. Julie, I told you I was going to memorize the date, and I didn't. I know it's the first weekend in December, Saturday and Sunday. You're running the beginner animal communication course again, you guys. I strongly encourage anybody who wants to know how to communicate with animals, check it out. It's a wonderful course, and you're going to meet some great people there. She's also worked with me with some of my pets personally, and really helped dramatically. If you've got a pet out there and you're like, why is my animal doing this? I don't know how I'm going to communicate or get them to stop, or maybe they need some healing, whatever that may be. I highly recommend Julie. So you can reach her either at juliejeanbassett.com for the animal communication and animal healing, or Whitetail Shamanic Healing for her shamanic practitioner pieces that she does. We got Kirby's 100 saying hello. I know doing the same thing to me, Vet Girl. You're saying Fotoula kept trying to autocorrect your name for me. That's what they're saying in the chat.
Oh, can I pronounce it? You mean again, Fotoula?
Yeah. Yes, because they're saying, Mish is saying you've got some guinea fowl feathers on your earrings.
Oh, yeah.
Well, she's from Australia, so I'm guessing maybe that's why she's recognizing them. I'm not sure.
To be honest, it was a gift, and I didn't know exactly where they came from. And it's, I thought because we're talking about Isis and ancient Egypt, I thought I'll wear the feathers, bring in the feathers, the light feathers of Isis for us today.
I love it. Love it. I love it. You've got Kathy Hanley Little here. And Julie says, nice to meet you, Fotoula.
Very nice to meet you too, Julie. Thank you.
Oh, Kevin's asking Mish. Hi, Mish. How's the future? I have to go out tomorrow and would like to know, LOL. Because I always say Mish is in the future because they're ahead of us in Australia. Just as it's very late where you are, because you were in the UK. It's 11 o'clock. Well, after 11 now. So I've got Paranormal Heart Podcast, who's also part of UPRN, Kat Ward, and her podcast is tomorrow here on UPRN. Thanks for popping in, Kat.
Thank you.
Let's see. We've got Sean Ellis. Sean Ellis was on, as I guess, last week with, oh God, now I can remember this. Sean, is it External Ex-Wolf Pack? Podcast, paranormal podcast, I believe. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Correct me in the comments, Sean, if I screwed it up. Let's see. We're going quick. Oh, and Kat wants to look into the animal communication course. I was seeing what course, and I realized, oh, Julie's course. Yeah. December 6th, you guys, I'll put it up there. December 6th and 7th from 12 noon Eastern to 3 p.m. Eastern both days. Oh, Mish, I stand corrected. She said guinea fowl are from South Africa.
That's good to know. That's really good to know. Yeah.
We'll just check Instagram. Go. Okay, we're good. So, oh, Heidi Gall's here. We can't forget Heidi Gall. She says, hello, Lorilei and Fotula. Sorry, she wrote Futini. Everybody's writing Futini. So forgive me. I know it's Fotula. Please forgive me. Much love from Boulder, Colorado. You're in Michael's craft store. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm gonna just be very, very envious because I've stayed away from there. Michael's, have you heard of Michael's Crafts before?
No, no.
Okay, you have a bit bigger crafting like type stores throughout the UK. I know because I follow a lot of UK creators. Over here in North America, we have Michael's, and Michael's has the most beautiful crafting things for holidays and you name it. So thank you for joining us while you're shopping. I'll
Thank
live
you.
vicariously through you, actually. Sorry, what were you saying? Sorry, Fotoula?
And I'm just thanking everybody as well. Thank you so much for being here.
We also have Michelle Wilfong. Normally we are streaming on TikTok. But TikTok has decided that it doesn't like when they don't use their software. So they banned me, I believe, in another week or two. I didn't do anything wrong. But the reason I mention it is Michelle Wilfong is my mod over there, and she's an incredible mod. And I like to thank people when they do these things. So please forgive me for the long intro here. But you guys check her out. She lives in a haunted apartment, and her TikTok channel is My Haunted Apartment. So now we got to talk about you. So, gosh, normally I like to start at the beginning. Like, how did you get to where you are today? Like, did you notice that you always had abilities as a child, or did this sort of come at a certain point in your life?
Yes, so basically, what happened to me was that I grew up in Greece, and
Mhm,
I come from a Greek family, but I was very, very clairvoyant, and I had ancestors, my great grandfather, my great aunts, who were also clairvoyant, and my great grandfather was practicing what we call shamanism, but we don't call it shamanism in Greece because that's a foreign word to us. So we call it magic, magia, and he was practicing there in his village, and the gift was passed to me. So what happened was, as a child, I had first of all a great reverence for the divine, for the sacred. I
mhm,
could really communicate with the trees and the sea, the water. I could feel the magic of the sun and the moon. The moon was very, very important to me. And as a little child, I took part in a ceremony with my family. We used to go to an island where nobody used to live there. It was just two houses on this island, and we used to go there on holiday. There was no electricity, nothing like that. And
mhm,
I used to go with my family, with my father, who did some of this work of his grandfather, and do the work with the moon one night, and
mhm,
something really opened. And I used to communicate with Mother Mary and everything like that up until about when I became a teenager. Then what happened was this natural connection started to go because I started to feel very unsure about if I was doing the right thing. The mind that was very quiet before, because it was a natural gift, I never judged it. I started to fear it. And that is when everything started to shut down until I was 30. You know, that Saturn return that people talk about. So when I was 30, everything opened up just overnight. And I started to really remember, and I had the wisdom then, to the wisdom of life. I went through a huge dismemberment. When that happened at 30, I had to change my life because what I had constructed before was not really the life I was supposed to live. So things really had to change, and I went through this big dismemberment, and and then I everything opened up again. So the gift was there in the beginning and came back, and I had to work for it. It didn't just happen that, of course, the memory started flowing, but for me to claim back the clairvoyance, the clairaudience, the clairsentience that was so natural when I was a child, I had to really study it again, start again. But I had some incredible experiences that kept me on the path, and the signs were there. And every time I thought, oh, maybe I should pull myself back. And it doesn't make sense to my mind that I was a town planner, bricks and mortar. Something happened and said, no, this is your path of life. And things became very difficult if I wasn't following my path. Everything became
Always.
so incredibly difficult. I thought, I can't do this. And then you have no other option. You have to do it. This is what happened. And then in 2006, I had a great vision of Isis, the goddess Isis, who I used to see as a child. I had this huge love of ancient Egypt as a child. I can't tell you. I was just journeying as a shamanic. I do shamanic journeys. I used to do these journeys, even though I didn't know they were called shamanic journeys. I used to go to Egypt in the ancient temples, in my mind, imagining I was there and seeing all this light and ceremonies. And I loved anything Egyptian, but I couldn't find much in Greece. But when Isis came, she said, "You have to be. I would like to invite you to be my teacher again." And I said yes. And then I haven't had a day off since. Really, I've worked so much because there is so much to do. There's so much information. There's so much wisdom. There is writing books. There is teaching. There is all this incredible wisdom that we had in ancient Egypt about the awakening of the soul and the multidimensional self started to come bit by bit, step by step, so I could integrate it. And then Isis said, "Go and share it." And I became terrified. That was another journey of coming out of my cell and actually sharing the information and the teachings. And I've been doing that now for almost 20 years.
Wow. Well, you know what, though? I resonate with so much that you're talking about. Ever since I was a little girl, I've always wanted to go to Australia. Do you hear that, Mish? Anybody else over in Australia? Actually, for a while there, my father had a work opportunity there. We were looking at, when I was a very small child, moving to Australia. Obviously, didn't happen. I live in Canada, but I've always wanted to go to Greece. It looks like such a beautiful, beautiful place. And I had, never, just many of the things you've said, like I can remember all the strange, odd things around me since I was a small child. I believe many of the things as a nurse, that walking into a room that I would have with 60 patients on nights. And I'm hearing that voice that I now know, and no, we don't hear voices the way I try and explain it. For me, I hear it within the mind's eye, if you will. You need to go there right away. And watching my poor patient have a heart attack right in front of me. Now, if I checked that room last, like I normally did, I may not have gotten there for an hour. Like very strange things, right? And believe it or not, it was our paranormal experience that got me on this path, including with you sharing that when we get off our path, yeah, life does become, it seems, much more difficult. And spirit, as I call it, collectively gives you that nudge, or and then gives you a push, and then gives you a real spiritual whack, if you will, if you don't stay on the path, right? But what I'm going to ask you, and it may sound foreign, but again, because we broadcast to every country, it won't, or sound weird, and maybe to some people foreign. There may be people out there that have no idea who Isis is. So could you maybe share a little bit about that? I know who Isis is, but again, there's all kinds of people listening, probably may have heard of Isis, but had no idea. And I would love if you could share a little bit about her.
So Isis is a goddess from ancient Egypt, so all the way back, and she's still with us. She hasn't gone away, even though ancient Egypt is no more the way it was. Isis is very present, and Isis, the name Isis is an amplified form of the Greek name Isis, because at some point the Greeks conquered Egypt and they changed the names, but her original name in Egypt is Iset. And she is the goddess of who carries initiation, who puts people on a spiritual path, who has wings behind her, wings of light. And these wings surround the initiate, bringing the energy so the initiate can become a channel of wisdom. They say in ancient Egypt, your mouth is equipped now, it's opened so that you can speak the wisdom. And she is really guiding people, not just in one lifetime. So some people say, I remember lifetimes from ancient Egypt, and now I find it again. And that is true for me. So I had past lives in Egypt where I practiced this work, and now it found me again. And the path, it continues over lifetimes. And she is sometimes portrayed as the goddess of higher magic, which has to do with the awakening process, with the ascension process, and healing as well. And one of her gifts is the unconditional love, the opening of the heart center. Everything starts from here. And she says when we are in that expansive state of consciousness, they can only come to us if we are in this state of unconditional love. If we are in our mind, we can try as hard as we can, we might get downloads and everything else, but we can't really lift ourselves out of the earthly realm. So it is that key that opens us to this experience of eternal life called Ankh in ancient Egyptian. So she's a very incredible goddess. And she's part of a pantheon of nine beings that is a story of creation. There is a song that sings the story of creation, and she's part of these nine beings that brings us, it says, it's time now to wake up, it's time to find yourself and experience, learn through experience. So my book is all about taking people into the experience of light, of this higher state.
Excuse me for hi Mort. Thanks. I've got my Facebook open, so when you message me, we're going to hear about it. Excuse me just for one moment. You guys are looking for Mort. Mort is on Facebook, I see. So just so you know. I really appreciate that you shared that because I have a million questions. Hi, country person 2322. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so what I want to ask you, because you said something pretty profound there, and we're going to get into your book because that's a wonderful thing with Gavin. He sends, I don't always use the questions, but you know what? There's some really incredible talking points that are in the initial email he sent that I'd love to get into. But you had said, okay, so unconditional love. Now, just my mind going a million miles an hour here, that as human beings, we can strive for unconditional love and we can try to be loved, but we're not perfect at it. So do you need to be in a different state of consciousness to be able to connect with someone or the nine beings, including Isis? Because you would be more into your higher self, I would think, than the human self. Or did I misunderstand that?
You didn't misunderstood it at all. You didn't misunderstand it. It's absolutely what you're saying, Laura. So what happens is the path starts with an initiation. I had initiations from her in the beginning, and they keep happening. And what happens is you merge with these beings. You become one with these beings, and you start to feel, how does this being feels for me? And when we are in our heart and we do it with a clear intention for the highest good, to do good in the world, then what happens is that we start to feel this amazing love. And the ancient Egyptians started to try and define, are there moments where we can feel this love in our world? And they said the only way they can describe it is the love of the parent, the mother who has given birth, and the father who comes there and looks at this newborn baby, and they see the child for the first time. And that moment, they say that is unconditional love. When you see that, and of course, some people might say, "Well, I never experienced that from my parents."
After 5 days of labor with my eldest.
I never experienced that. I never did. But there is something there about the heart opening from a mother to the child that is like in the instinct. It is like part of the cell experience, but it's difficult to find. So during that time when you merge with the Divine Mother, you feel yourself being nurtured by the experience.
I work with her a lot because when you mention Mother Mary, and we don't all have perfect parents or perfect upbringings. And I connected with Mother Mary quite a few years ago, and there aren't words to explain the feeling of love that you receive from her. Not that you don't, from the collective, if you will, for people listening across the veil. But if you are missing, say, that maternal love in your life, there, to me, there just isn't words, and it's so healing to connect with her. So I guess I just wanted to throw that in there, because for anybody who may be hearing this that maybe hasn't, because I agree with you that the example you've used of the connection of a parent with, say, a child, or that when they're first born, but even as adults, right? If we haven't had that feeling of that unconditional love, say, in our upbringing, I always find she's incredible to work with. Now, I've never worked with Isis, so I want to hear a lot more about her too.
So Isis is a teacher, is a teacher as well. And what she has showed me is that we have a direct connection on top of our crown, a direct connection with this higher realm of where our divine self, you could say, our spiritual self lies. And this is an amazing connection. But what happens in our world is there is a psychic soup around us with all these thought forms and everything else going on, people's energies. And when these come, this divine connection, this, if you like, what he calls the ladder, starts to go askew. It starts to pick up the world instead of picking up this crown and this divine connection. And you might know that in ancient Egypt they had, sometimes they were wearing this big crown, like Nefertiti.
I was just seeing it. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And this is because they want to say, I want to protect my connection with my divine self so I don't pick up everything else that is going around. And in the spiritual path, you start to become a lot more detached. Healthy detachment, not that you are numb. It's a healthy detachment from all the dramas out there as the more you go into that divine connection. And it's so beautiful. So she is a teacher. She has been a great teacher. She's a mirror for me, showing myself. You discover yourself without all these layers of the world. And in ancient Egypt, she was also the mistress of ceremonies,
Sorry,
the mistress of ceremonies. So
a
when people
ceremony. Okay.
Yeah, so people who are doing ceremonial work, there is a word that they use, and it's called Heka. And Heka means the power of creation, and it's higher magic, but not witchcraft. Not like, okay, I want to manifest a boyfriend, or I mean that's wonderful, but that's not her role per se. There are other ways, other teachings for that. But her role is really to manifest myself as a divine being, and bring that resonance and create a life that mirrors that resonance that I now embody. It's all about embodiment too in the physical world. So her initiates, they were going through the initiations in the Great Pyramid and in the temples, and it was a life very much of unfolding and opening up this wonderful center and the lotus flower. And she's also very much connected with the divine feminine,
And what
like
people
Mother
should be.
Mary.
Sorry, I think I've got a bit of a delay, you guys. If I do, I apologize. We have had a sprinkling of snow, but they've been warning since early this morning that I think tomorrow we're supposed to wake up to a massive, massive snowstorm. So hopefully my connection's going to behave itself. So I apologize if I accidentally might start to speak over you, because it looks like I might have a little bit of a delay. So thanks for your patience in advance, guys, with that. I also want to say hi to Dr. Frederick Woodard, Woodard Hypnosis on Instagram. He's been on the Angel Rock before a few times. So welcome, Dr. Frederick. Um, okay, so this question here in your book, and thank you for what you've shared, um, because I have so many questions. That's why I love doing this, because
Yeah.
I get to ask people about what they're passionate about and what their life's work is about and why, and then more people get to discover what you do as well, because I'm sure there are a lot of people that may not, like, they've heard of Isis, but not the way you've described her, or shared, I shouldn't say described, shared your experiences with her. So in Sacred Mysticism of Egypt, you talk about a first era, or the golden time of human history, which is described with the word, please forgive me if I don't say it correctly, Satya in Sanskrit. How did the ancient mystics describe this first era, and what can we learn from it in our times? And the one thing I'm going to share, hi, Julia Evans, and she is over in the UK as well. So it's late over there. This tattoo, it's hard to see. I drew it. It needs to be recolored. It's a dragon, and I put all kinds of hidden stuff, but I put Sanskrit in there. I looked it up and put it in there. So back to the question, I guess, from your book. What's the golden, it says the first era of the golden time, and how did the ancient Egyptian mystics describe the first era, and what can we learn from it for our
Yes.
times?
Yes. So the first era, the name in ancient Egyptian is Zeb Tepi.
Oh,
And
I really didn't say correctly.
no,
Sorry.
you said the Sanskrit word is Satya, Satya time. You
Oh,
did say it correctly, but in
oh, good.
ancient
Okay.
Egyptian, they call the same as the same. It's called Zeptep. It describes the same era, and they say that during that time, the human beings were like gods on earth. So
Oh,
we had and they say also that the human beings are gods on earth. When we die and we go into our spirit, they refer to the person. They are now a god because they are in their spirit. And while we are here, we're human beings, of course. But during Zeb Tepi, that spirit that we are when we die, during Zeb Tepi, we were that on earth. So we were alive in a body that was uh, lived a lot longer, that had the ability to self heal, because we were so aware, and it is that awareness, that awakened state, that can heal the body, because the awakened soul is just the mirror for the body. The body is a mirror for the soul, and the soul is a mirror for the body. So when we are in this awakened state, our body is awakened too. So our body has a power that we are not accessing right now, to self heal. And to access this power, we need to awaken into the higher being that we are. But during that time, we were that being. They also had incredible technology that was multidimensional. So, for example, how did they build the pyramids? They
yeah.
say,
Yes.
yeah. So they say this for the human beings, right? That we have this human self, this human body, and at the same time we have a double, which the double is the etheric self, that is a mirror image of this body, but made of energy. So when they build the pyramids, they build that double. So the pyramids are also built with energy. So everything is manifested as in energy form. So they visualize everything, they bring the power of Heka, the power of creation, and bit by bit they build an etheric double of the pyramid. And then they build the pyramid in stone in the physical world. So this means that they are accessing not just the physical realms, but as we have a dream body, these temples are also accessing multidimensional planes, and they're gateways between this world
You're
and
reading my
the higher
mind.
realm.
Go, please continue. You're reading my mind. Go ahead. Sorry.
During this time, people are incredible engineers, of course, but also everything is sacred. There is the sacredness of life. Everything is alive. Everything is done with permission from the earth and from all beings. Everything is guided. But and people at that time, what I have seen is that there is language. Of course, we communicate, but there is also not so much of the language spoken, because we communicate mostly at the time through clairvoyance, through psychic connection. And when we speak, our words have so much power. So when we speak, we manifest with our words. As I speak, so I create. So that's what happens at that time, because we our words are light, are power, and, and at that time everything is done through that divine connection. But unfortunately, they knew even at that time that it could not be sustained, and they had foretold our time. So there are myths, there are stories that they left us behind to say that this is going to happen, that we are going to live this time, or that we are living now, that is called the time of Set, the time of corruption. And through our spiritual connection, we will go back to the golden times, to Zep Tepi, because it's not a linear thing. It's a cyclical existence. So these eras repeat themselves because each era has different gifts and different learnings for the soul.
So I have, that's fascinating because I have a question for you. Now, I could be wrong about this, but I almost feel like we are in between the fifth and seventh iteration of humanity, if you will. That exactly what you said, like the cyclic wheel, right? This sounds like this was incredible. The golden age. But it's like we almost get to a certain point with humanity, and because we don't pay attention, we may not get the truth. I know we have to be careful here on YouTube too with certain words, but we may not get the truth about what's happened in history before. So we're destined to keep creating the same mistakes over and over. And this time, it almost feels like humanity, even though it may seem like we're really divided and a lot of people, aren't getting along, there's also a lot more people that are spiritually awakening and almost remembering. Like, I really feel like humanity, if you will get it right, because depending on where you read in the ancient texts, right? The golden era, golden ages, golden times, we are destined to return to that, is what I've been shown and heard. But I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. And in ancient Egypt, they prophesied that we are going to return to those times. And they said exactly that through the awakening of the spirit, through spiritual awakening, we're going to see, to realize that the way we lived our life in the material life alone does not actually make us happy, that this conditioned world does not make us happy. And we are going to realize that and start awakening. And then is the battle between the conditioned mind and the spirit. And this battle, we can feel it as an inner battle sometimes. Like how many people are saying, I want to meditate, I want to wake up and do ritual, but every time I want to do that, something pulls me back and says, oh, just watch another TV series or something else. And it is an inner battle to say, yeah, I have to overcome that. I have to do what is right for me. I have to be able to realize what is the energy of the people I meet, the things I read, what I am watching. Is it actually helpful? And that sometimes takes a lot of effort. So that is the inner battle between the conditioning and the spirit. But more and more we are going into the spirit. But this battle is also the path of the hero, because our soul is making choices, and we have to reaffirm that choice every day, that I'm making the choice to walk the path of my soul instead of what the world, the outside, is telling me to do. So this is a choice that we have to keep making, and we are getting there. And in ancient Egypt, they described the end of Atlantis with a great flood, and they said that was when people said, well, we are gods, we don't need anybody else, we can do whatever we want. And they had no reverence for the sacred anymore, they had no respect for life, they were endangering earth and other life forms. And then what happened was that the great flood came and everything, finished and start again. And this was Sekhmet. Sekhmet is a goddess in ancient Egypt that is seen as fire, and she has a lioness head, and she's the destroyer. She destroys everything. But
I've heard that name. I've heard
in
that name.
our yeah, she left a few human beings because she took so many out. She really destroyed what was there before. And then she transforms, in our time, she transforms into the healer. And the healer is like this lovely purring cat who comes and supports and is a lovely ally. But as the healer, she says, it's not about starting again. It's not about destroying the world and starting again. It's about healing yourselves. And this is the power that will bring us to the new era. It is the healing of the trauma. And what is the primordial trauma and karma that we are healing is the killing of each other, the brother killing brother. That is described in also in other traditions, described in the Bible, and it described in ancient Egypt that there are these twin brothers, Osiris and Set, and the jealous brother kills the other brother. And this killing of ourselves, of each other, because we are all one, we're all connected, and we are all manifesting in the theater of life these different aspects. Somebody is the jealousy, somebody is the goodness, somebody is the justice, somebody is the corruption. And we have to kind of heal ourselves with so much compassion and release the judgment, because it's about everybody healing that primordial trauma. So no more wars, just this state of peace. And Isis and my helping spirits and my shamanic spirits said, please put on your altar, on if you have a crystal, if you have where you light your candle, where whatever you do in your ceremony, peace on earth, because this is the deepest karma that we carry, is that killing and harming each other.
I agree with you, but what I'm wondering, because I've seen this too, plus, just with research and looking into people like Dolores Cannon and connecting, with different people and eras and things like that with her hypnosis work. And I've seen it through other people too. Is it also, because I agree with you about the healing, right? Um, where I'm going with this is she's talked about there being almost two worlds because we've got free will, right? There are going to be people that will choose many of these things that you've just mentioned. But there's a lot more people, I think, that are waking up and recognizing exactly what you said about healing, that inner healing, the trauma, the primordial wound, all of it, right? And I don't know, is there? Because then it gets into a whole bunch of things. And I know we're not talking about that tonight, but even the multiverse timelines, we know there's no time on the other side, right? Past, present, and future all happening at the same time. But I hear what you're saying and I agree with you. And where I saw this the most, before I hurt my back, I worked out in the community as a visiting nurse. And I did a lot of really high tech stuff in the community. But the most rewarding work I ever did was I worked in one of the most dangerous parts of my city. I almost didn't take the job. I'm so glad I did. It was life changing. To work in an area of my city was very dangerous. There was a lot of crime. There was a lot of pain, a lot of poverty, everything you could possibly think that could happen to a human being was in that area. And it was life changing for me because of what I've learned about people and what I saw, but also working in palliative care, people that chose to die at home. And I can tell you right now, and I know you know this, but for anybody listening, not one person, I don't care if they were millionaires, I don't care if they were the poorest of the poor, not one person ever said to me before they died, "Gee, I wish I had lost that final 30 pounds. Gee, I wish I had gone out and spent more money. I wish I had done all this." Every single person, though, I can tell you, said the regrets they had that they didn't tell the people they loved around them how much they meant to them every single day. That they, you know what I mean? Like many of them sitting with them during those hours talking about how, we really should live every day like it was our last on earth, and service to others, and going, love, basically coming from a place of love. And so I agree 100% with what's being said, but how do we get there? Like, is it that with through free will we energetically split, or what are you seeing, what are you hearing from your team that you work with?
So what I've been shown is that there is so much help, so much help from the invisible realms right now. That
Hmm.
these beings of light are coming to remind us of our past lives,
Hmm.
of all these lives of service, and people are awakening from the grassroots, and
Yep.
they're starting working, they're starting teaching, they're starting helping each other, and it's all happening, in almost like in the underground in some cases, and nobody really knows much, but it is there and it's growing. And at some point, they showed me the tipping of the scales, that
Okay.
these energies that are coming in and that we are remembering and we are channeling and we are choosing, that we are now working for the highest good and supporting us. At some point, there are enough people that the vibration of the earth, it keeps rising. And this vibration of the earth, as it rises, it shows very clearly this duality of light and dark. It becomes so evident, the corruption and the goodness. It is like you can't hide it anymore. And then
We're
our
seeing
eyes,
it now. We're seeing
yeah,
it now. We're
yeah,
seeing it now. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
And we're going to see it even more and more. And we are just going to keep making choices. What am I choosing? Am I choosing to support this corruption and just have an easy life? Or am I going to go into my spiritual consciousness and start to do the work to transmute and heal myself and heal others and help the earth, because the earth is already rising in a higher vibration. We are playing catch up. The humankind is playing catch up right now. The earth has already risen to a higher plane. Um, so what I'm seeing is that yes, there is this very difficult time, because the duality is becoming more and more extreme, and people have every opportunity is given to the souls to say, please make it, please see it, please see it very clearly. At the same time, there are also where there is light, there is also darkness. So there is the other side too. and and I've seen it too, because in my shamanic work, I this year I've been doing so much depossession work, really helping people release those heavy souls or beings who are causing harm. So, and I can see people being lost in the ego as well, good people being lost in the ego. So I think at some point, at the moment, there are so many people here on the planet because they really wish to experience this change. We are in the changing times, and at some point, this the choice will be there that some people may have the opportunity to ascend to the higher plane. I feel like other people did before that in America, the Anasazi or the Mayans, some of them just ascended in a higher plane. They disappeared altogether. Where did they go? They were there and then they weren't. So what I have seen walking the petroglyphs in New Mexico is like these people are still there, but they are in a higher plane of consciousness, in a parallel earth. So there are these parallel realities that we know from the shamanic work, and
Hmm.
these are beliefs. Is some people will experience that ascension into a higher plane, and some people will not. If their path will continue in another way, but all these parallel earths are connected as well. So it's like the onion, all the layers of the onion. Each layer is a different, almost like dimension, but they are all connected at the bottom and at the top. So they are all intercommunicating. And in shamanic journeying and hypnosis, we can find ourselves that, I'm not in a past life. I'm in another world of this earth. And it is truly a multidimensional universe. And the ancient Egyptians had all these gateways, all
Hmm.
these doors to go there and connect with these planes and meet the beings who were supporting them. And they created these doorways in their temples. So I had the opportunity to go inside and do work in the ancient temples in Egypt. And some local healers met me there. And they took me to places inside the temples that they had the key, the etheric key, and they unlocked the place, and it was no longer the earth's vibration. I walked into that place and I thought, I'm no longer on the physical earth. It was a completely different um, sense and experience. And then I've tried to go back to the same temple by myself, and it was not there. They had done it for me and for my
Maybe they were your key to the doorway. Can you hold that thought? Because I'm supposed to do a station ID at the hour. And Mr. Kevin reminded me we have Sparky's Paranormal here. Hello, Sherry Madigan's here. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody. So if you're just tuning in, you're listening live to 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast and out of Mississippi and 107.7 FM out of the beautiful city of New Orleans, Louisiana, to UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio Network. I'm your host, Lorilei Potvin of the Angel Rock, and my incredible guest is Fotoula Adrimi. We are talking about Atlantis and Egypt, and holy cow, I have so many questions. So thank you for tuning in. You guys don't go anywhere afterwards either. We are finished at about 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the Light Gate is coming up next with Preston Dennett and Dolly Saffron. So don't forget about that one. So hang tight. Thank you. So you were saying that you tried to do this yourself. And yeah, it almost sounds like maybe they were the key, if you will, to the doorway, because there's a great question in here, and what it says is, I gotta find it. Hang on, I just had it. Um, there was something about how we could do it ourselves. So it says, how can we find the god, goddess, or archetype we were born with? And then it gets into talking about a past life you had before. So, how can we find out then for ourselves?
Yes, so that's a great question. And in my book, I have several the key ancient Egyptian gods and goddesses, their characteristics, their gifts, how you can connect with them, because they are archetypes too. They are spiritual beings of light, so they are helpers, guides, and teachers. I
Mhm.
think mainly teachers for the soul, but they're also archetypes because they bring um, a power that is outside duality, like Isis or Mother Mary is the Divine Mother. You feel the absolute unconditional love. There is the wisdom, Jehuti or Thoth, brings the wisdom that comes from the sky, from the in pure form, and then helps human life. And that is something that you can connect with. But in our world, wisdom is not perfect because some people use it well, some people misuse it for their own purposes. All these scientists that do all these experiments, which they should not be done, but in the pure form of the archetype is
Look
perfect.
who's joining us. Look who's joining us. We got to give him a shout.
Oh, hello,
Gavin,
Kevin.
we love you, Gavin. Gavin is responsible, you guys, for connecting Fotoula and I. And I would love for you to check him out at the Paranormal Chronicles. I know he's on Facebook. Gavin, if you have a website or anything like that, please put it in the chat for us. I adore Gavin. Many of the incredible authors that I have introduced my audience to has been because of working with Gavin, and I continue to work with him. But please check out the Paranormal Chronicles because he's representing people on his own now, as I understand, and he's got other things coming up in the future. I am quite certain of it. So thank you for being here, Gavin. We love you. Sorry to interrupt, but I want to give him a shout out.
Thank you for very much because I owe so much to Gavin,
Oh,
and
I adore
he
Gavin.
he has done amazing work in introducing me to you as well,
Mhm.
and all the work that he did for my book.
Mhm.
So in Sacred Mysticism of Egypt, we have the opportunity to ask ourselves now, after going through that process of self-knowing and feeling really what is my purpose, what is the archetype that I am embodying in the world. Because when we find that, it really, our life flows and
So
it
many
makes
people are asking that. I don't mean to interrupt, but I am running into that with my clients. I know a lot of people that work in our field are, besides buying your book, which I know can help. But how
us.
could we get people onto that path? Because I've met so many people, they're either at a crossroads or and they want to know, what is my purpose? I mean, we can certainly guide people, but I don't feel it's my job to tell people what their purpose is. I kind of describe it like a beautiful
Thank
present
you.
that's waiting to be opened, and we can certainly help you open the package, but that's for that person to discover, right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That is the wisdom, that the purpose that you find is not something also static, because you are given one thing and it makes sense, and then something more
Here's
as
your
you
ladder.
keep a path of growth, because that is, we are here to grow, expand our knowledge of ourselves, and then we find that life is so much fun when we are working, doing the work. And it's not easy, it's many hours and dedication to reclaim this from, because the world sometimes says, stay being a nurse, don't be do this kind of thing because that is the safe option, why bother? But something in you is saying, no, this
There's
is
something
how I
more.
can express, yeah,
Mhm.
how I can express this purpose, how I can embody more of myself on this earth. And then the more we do it, life just keeps flowing. Even with the problems, there is something that makes us wake up in the morning and say, thank you for my life. I am here where I'm meant to be. Thank you for my life. So this comes through self-knowing and deep work in this beautiful work. And I do it through ceremony, because in ancient Egypt, ceremony is very important. And what people do there is they embody the different archetypes. So they merge like shamanically. They wear the clothes, and they did it very ceremoniously. You don't have to do all that, but they used to dress up as Isis. They used to wear all this regalia as Thoth or the different one. And they started to feel, what does it feel to be the archetype of wisdom? What does it feel to be the archetype of the Great Mother? And through this merging, an activation takes place, because we are that too. So in the golden times, we were the living presence of the divine. And we have done it then. Therefore, we can do it again. It is within us. And we start to become it over the months and the years that we are walking the path. This becomes more and more prominent. And and then the awareness grows, so it is easier for us to see who we are and what we're doing and how we are bringing it to our life, which is the next step. Okay, I feel that. I feel the love of the Divine Mother. Maybe I'm motherly, or I feel that I am this other archetype. There are so many. But how do then I bring it to life, and not keep it hidden? So that is the next step. But to find it is, as you said, the inner work, the deep work. And that is what we are here to do and explore. And that is part of the journey. So an initiation is the beginning of the journey, it's crossing a threshold. And I had some very powerful initiations that my mind could not comprehend, but they happened. And I know because they happened to me, they can happen to everybody. So sometimes it's about asking with an open heart, I wish to walk the path of my heart. Instead of walking the path of the mind, of the conditioning, of what the world says out there, I make a commitment to myself, to my soul. I want to work to walk the path of my soul. And then life says, really? Okay, this is go and do it. But then you have to kind of overcome and do the clearing and purification process and the empowerment process, and the right people come to your life, and the discernment grows, and we learn from our mistakes much more than from the beautiful experiences. And I've done it now for 20 years, and I'm very much a beginner. Every day I say, may I learn from everything. So I stay open and keep walking my path the best I can. Yeah.
I agree 100%. And as you were speaking, something it came from spirit years ago when you were talking about people embodying the energy, say, of what does wisdom feel like, or wearing the clothing of, say, one of the gods or goddesses, to feel that archetype. What spirit gave me is what we perceive becomes what we believe, and it becomes our reality. So, right, if that is what, say, some people may need, like to actually physically put that clothing on, and to help you really delve into what does that feel like, that's great. But for others, maybe not too, right? But that's what the whole thing is about here is, and I'm hearing spirit right now as I'm saying this, but it's trying it on for size and seeing, what does this feel like? How do and it may feel a little foreign in the beginning, maybe, but that's okay. Like, that's where the inner healing and some of the inner work comes from. One thing, and spirit keeps reminding me of this, is I was watching a podcast the other day, and it was, I think his name is Chase Hughes. He's done a real study of the brain and psychology and things. You're probably wondering, what does this have to do with anything? It actually has to do with a lot. He actually explained why once one of my mentors had said to me, what other people think of me is none of my business. And in the beginning I went, of course it is. I care what people think. And then now I start to realize there's much more to why we don't need to worry about what other people think, even though it may hurt if people are mean, but
Mhm.
it's more about what they're going through and the way they perceive things, right? We have to worry about our own path. But what he explained to me that I'd never heard before was, he said, back in the days of, say, the cavemen, if anybody believes there's cavemen, whatever, way back in the day before we had language, he said maybe all we had was like grunting, different grunts for things. He said people lived in groups of about 110 to 150 people. If you didn't follow the rules of the group and you didn't go along with what was expected, you were ostracized, you were cut off, and that meant death, because you needed your group to survive, right? And he says they've studied this with the human brain and recognized, now they haven't come across a gene or anything, but it's almost like energetically that is still implanted with the human psyche. So, and never mind that things that go on in the world, right? With social media, with everything else, right? People still, it's almost like it's ingrained from birth to worry about what other people think, right? But it's not important. And I'm adding this because I think it goes along very much with what you've shared from the wisdom from your book, right? And trying on these different archetypes, connecting with these different gods and goddesses, enjoying the journey, because each one of us has a different journey and we're here for a different purpose. So we don't have to be like the neighbors down the street, or we don't have to have the most incredible materialistic thing, because in the big grand scheme of things, none of that matters. It really doesn't. You can't. And again, I'm going to go back to when I was working in palliative care. People were, it didn't matter how much you had. You can't take any of that with you, right? You come in with nothing but your body and your soul, and that's kind of how you leave in the end, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And in ancient Egypt, they have all these. They see these archetypes as different powers, and uh, and this power expresses itself in a being. So these gods and goddesses, they call them Neteru. If they have certain characteristics, and that is why they have the masks and so to symbolize the dog Anubis, which has to do with death, and they have different staffs to symbolize different things, and they say all these are different powers. So we it's not just one thing. There is so many different ways of expressing the divine, and we are like that too. All of us are so different, and we have our unique path. So we learn from each other as long as we stay open and say, as you say, try it for size. If it doesn't fit, that's
Yeah.
great. But you will find there is something unique for you, and it's that openness that makes the difference. Instead of saying it is only one thing, this is the thing, and if you do not do it like this, you're making a mistake, you're doing the wrong way. And that is not the way of the ancients. Even in ancient Greece, they had all these different powers, different gods, different goddesses from Egypt. At some point, the Greeks went to Egypt and they saw the wisdom there and they brought them to Greece. And we have temples of Isis all over Greece. Um, and when Christianity came to Greece, at some point, they accepted that because they said, well, that's just another power. This is okay if some people can go into it because it might be right for them. So in the beginning, everything was accepted. And now we sometimes we have this dogma, but there was no dogma because you learn from yourself. You learn from what resonates with you. There are the teachings there that just open a door, but then it is what is the wisdom, the pool of wisdom within you. And 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 the way the meditations, the ceremonies that are there still from thousands of years ago that I remembered and I have been practicing, I can only say they help me, and that's it. Maybe they help somebody else too. That's it. And everybody can bring whatever is resonates. There will be somebody who may find something that can help somebody else, and we all have to work together. It's like all the colors of the rainbow make the white light.
Hmm. I agree 100%. Hi, Carrie Fast. I see you popping in. Nice to see you here. So I'm loving what you're saying, because I have something I call the proverbial back shelf. I really, really believe that truth and light always will eventually find and rise to the surface, always. But say there's something like we're trying it on for size, say, we're looking at your book, we're going through your book, or trying on some of these archetypes, or connecting with different gods and goddesses. So maybe it's not the right time to, right? Because I really believe that if you want to call it the universe, you want to, the gods, the goddesses, spirit, whatever you want to call it, spirit meets us where we're at. So where I'm going with this is, say somebody tries something on there going, oh God, there's no way, but there was something interesting. There's a reason why I looked at this. That's where I take something like that and shove it on the proverbial back shelf, I call it. Because lo and behold, and I'm going to show one example to the audience that just came to mind. So when I know, though, that eventually, if it's important, it's going to come to the surface. So this is something, my journey years ago. I always joke and say I don't need cards, but I love them. Oracle cards, tarot cards, and what have you. And this had to be about 20 years ago too. I seen this beautiful deck, and it said Keys of the Arcturians. And I opened this up and I went, I'll show you why. I opened this up and I'm going, what the heck is this? What am I going to do with this? And I don't know if people can see. It's got it's got channeled symbols on the back, and I went, what the heck am I going to do with this? I'm never, ever, ever going to use this. So back then, not recognizing I was hearing spirit, I just tucked it away. And I have to tell you, this is one of my most favorite decks now, years later, having learned, done the inner healing, strengthened that connection with, you want to call it across the veil, to the other side, whatever people want to call it. So this was actually physically on my proverbial back shelf, but where I'm going with even with your book, right? Try it on. If you feel pulled towards it, there's something maybe in there, some little nugget of something that interested you. Maybe it's not, you're not meant to access all of it right there, but hang on to it is what I'm saying, right?
Well, exactly. And what I would like to say is please get in touch as well. If you have any questions about the book, it's wonderful. All the readers, all these readers sending me questions, and we speak about it. But what people say, what they come back and say is that it's not just the words that they feel, it's the energy. And when I wrote the book, and there's a lot more than the gods and goddesses and the temples and the pyramids, there's also the path that the people followed. You know, the path during the death mysteries, and that were very important, the initiations and all of that.
Just to stop you for a second, there may be people listening that have no idea what are death mysteries for people
Yeah.
listening. Do you mind sharing?
Yeah, yeah, of course. So in ancient Egypt, they practiced the mysteries of Osiris, which was the mysteries of death. So they wanted to, they knew that when we are in our spirit state, so when we die, if we die well and we don't get stuck and become a ghost, so if we die well, we go into this luminous spirit. We become that spirit out of the body. They said you are a god. You are a god, really. You are now awakening into your divine self. So they said, instead of waiting to die, can we access that state while we're living? Can we
That's
become, yeah,
mhm.
it's so powerful. It's so powerful. And some, some shamans in some traditions, they still do it. I mean, I had I had one day. It wasn't as powerful, of course, as it was in ancient Egypt, but it was for our times. I had a burial where I was buried in the earth. It was a Celtic ceremony, and it was the full moon, and I stayed in that womb of the earth overnight while the shamans were chanting, and they said, right, you are dead now, we have your funeral, and you're trying to access that state. But in ancient Egypt, they really dedicated that. They had the temples on the west bank in the desert, in a place of emptiness, because nothing grows in the desert. Is the place of death. And they had portals to the states, to the spirit realms of the light, that the energy is there. And people, after many years of practice, they would have this near death experience. What happens to people who have a near death experience? A lot of them come back and they change their life. And
Like I mentioned at the beginning, I have studied that professionally and personally for over 40 years. I am fascinated still to this day by it. Mhm.
so in ancient Egypt, they were trying to do that without hurting themselves or without having an accident or a near death. It was a spiritual path of the mystery of death, of trying to connect with your divine self as if you have died, and you
I've
walk
had people
back.
on the show that have done that. Even I think Gavin, Stephen in Australia, Stephen Chung. He's come on. He was one of Gavin's authors too, just to add. And I've had a few other people on that did not have a classic near-death experience, but accessed exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. The energy is incredible. It is absolutely incredible. And you come back, a changed person. And they did that for years, the ancient initiates. We just do it, as our work is now in the in our times. But they dedicated many years of their life of going through the gate of death and coming back a changed person, the luminous spirit who is in the body. And when they came back in that luminous state, the first thing they did was to go to the temples and bring all the light there and bless the land because they were the divine spirit. So everything they did was in service to the whole. These are the mysteries of death.
I have to agree with you. I was having this conversation with a client a couple months ago and explaining that you are not who you are just here, that you it's hard to explain. I was trying to say to them, but you are not your soul, but you are, and you're connected. You're basically playing a role, and the body that we have is a vehicle for us to have this experience and journey in this lifetime here. But and then they asked me, well, does that mean then I'm not my soul? And I said, no, you are, but you're living the role of insert the name there. And Spirit gave this to me in the fact that when we go to a place of unconditional love, when we are in service to others, truly of heart and coming from a place of love, I believe that that's when we connect with our true godlike self, if you will, according to your book, and I agree, or our soul, because I think that that's who we are, because we never truly die. And I would love to hear what you've learned from sharing in your book or your experiences working in this field. Would you agree, disagree? What are your thoughts?
We are eternal. There is no beginning, there is no end. And the ancient Egyptians had really analyzed all the different levels of spirit. What is the multidimensional self? What is the divine self? What is the personality here on earth? And how do they interact? And how can we bring that connection? How we can connect the divine self, the multidimensional self, the earthly personality. So the earthly personality can say, I trust now my inner voice. This is wisdom in my inner voice. This multidimensional self that speaks and talks to me is wise, and I can let go of the control. And when that happens, things start to change. We become much more detached, more the observer of life, instead of just living life and thinking we are making good decisions, but many times we are actually a spectator. And there is a difference between the spectator and the observer, because the observer learns from life, but the spectator just sees images, the world going by, and is that nothing registers.
Like
So
watching TV, like watching a
yeah,
monitor, basically,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So they really analyzed all of these elements that the human existence brings together, and how we can work with each other, and they had these incredible ceremonies in the mysteries of death. They said you were dismembered by life. Osiris was one of the gods, was cut in 14 pieces. So the person is saying, you have been hurt, you have been traumatized, you have had all this life has cut you in all these pieces. But then there is the light symbolized by Isis, the priestess of Isis comes, the priestess of the other side of Isis, the silence, the darkness, the night, Nephthys, they come and they build the person back again with the etheric energy of light that comes from the Sirius star. The Sirius star is so important. The Orion constellation, the The three stars of the Orion belt are so important. The Pleiades are so important. So there is all these star connections as well. It's all fascinating and so sophisticated, and at the same time, when the deeper we go into it, the more it makes sense.
I have to agree with you. It was just made me start to think. I connect with two very close friends. We've been doing it for years. We connect with the other side. And one of the things that the one that we connected with, we worked with closely, asked us to do was to map all the pyramids on Earth, above the Earth, meaning we got clarification with the constellations, and below the Earth, the ones that were still standing, the ones that were yet to be built, and including off planet. Now, that I don't think we got them all. We still haven't figured out why, but there's been a lot of stuff that has come up with pyramids, with Egypt. Like, I have a question for you, just popped in my head. Why? Okay, so you brought up the constellations. Why have they noticed that with the pyramids, some of them, I don't want to say connect, but are built in almost in the same degree as the constellations in the sky? And I'm not saying that properly, I don't think. But have you received any information on that at all as to why?
Yes, so Lord, the work, I just want to, before I answer the question, I want to say the work that you did to map all the pyramids off planet, on planet, and
We didn't
below,
get them all.
even even
We got
as
help.
many as we did. I
We
mean,
didn't
just
do it all. We got help from others too. So
that's an amazing project. That is just wonderful. I would just, wonderful. Congratulations to you and all the hard work.
but I'm
Because
not, like I say, I knew somebody we could connect with that would know a lot of it. We what I think that the we don't always know, it's a former scientist that used to be alive on this planet that we connect with. And they've never steered us wrong, and they never always tell us why. But we do, like we did agree to this. But I think it was more or less trying to get us to understand the connection of the constellations of the pyramid, say off world, on world, beneath the world, right? And connecting, if you will, energetically and ley lines and what have you. We still don't know why yet, but it was fascinating, and we're still learning about more. So I just wanted to throw that in.
yeah, so the Egyptians created these pyramidal structures, and it's not just the three pyramids of Giza. These are the most, for me, these are the most ancient ones because uh, there are others that were built at different times because they built, and they didn't just build it randomly. They had a master plan, and there
Yeah.
are others around the earth that are still to be discovered, and we will learn about them. And they are all part of the one master plan and the one network. And it goes before Egypt. For me, that plan started in Atlantis. And what they were trying to do is to connect through high vibrational places where the ley lines come together. They were creating the environment as well. In Egypt, the way that the morphology of Egypt, I think, has been manipulated as well by the human beings because they had so much incredible power to manifest the hills, the places, everything is so aligned. And there are places like that in France as well, and I think Rennes le Chateau. And people say, how can it all be natural? But it is natural. But how? Somebody has placed it exactly like that because
Yes.
because people had that power of shaping and creating because they were like gods on earth and
Okay, so how do
everything.
we lose this? I've been wanting to ask, how do we lose this besides it? And I don't want to say it incorrectly. Is it because we just became too overconfident, if you will, about who we were or what we were, and we lost it? Like, what happened? I've been wanting to ask you this since the beginning of we started the show.
So each era has different gifts for the soul. So from the higher point of view, the higher perspective, the golden times, in incredible time, people are very aware, enlightened state, really awakened being. And this era is wonderful. There's so much harmony. We can create paradise on earth, everything. But what happens is the soul is already there. So there is not that grinding of the diamond. There's not that evolutionary state. And now the era that we are living now is quite a short era in comparison. The golden times lasted a much longer time. But the evolution, the teaching for the soul during our times is immense. So this is an advanced school right now. We are in an advanced school.
Yeah.
We are, and that's why it's so tough. And it's hard for a lot of souls. It's really hard. But the soul was asked, if you could choose sometimes, I don't know the American equivalent, what is the best university here in the UK? You could say Oxford, Cambridge. You could go and do a college course, but you can also go to Oxford. And the soul says, no, I want to study in the best place. But when you get there, you have to have many sleepless nights. You have to really work so hard. And Earth is like that. It's a really advanced school. And during this time that there is so much suffering, there is immense growth because we've lost the connection. But the journey to find it again, when we find that grace that we are again, when we are touched by the grace of the enlightened spirit that we are, and we feel that incredible connection, that is such a gift. That is what
Oh,
is about.
amazing.
Yeah,
It'll
yeah.
it'll be incredible. So like I said, that you there's so many incredible questions that Gavin included in here. But I wanted to ask you that we're going to run out of time, and I got so many questions. We may just have to have you back on in the new year sometime. Um, so in
I
your
would
book,
love
sorry.
I would love to come back. I
So
love
when
our
I have
conversation.
so many questions, and I'm sure the audience does too. So in your book, Sacred Mysticism of Egypt, you state that initiations into the mysteries were open to anyone. This is the question I was looking for before, and not hereditary or dependent on social status, which I love. Um, what were the skills or qualifications necessary to become an initiate for people that are listening? Because and you guys, I strongly encourage you, please, if you want to know more about this, like we barely scratched the surface of your book tonight, and we're going to tell you guys where you can find it, where to buy it in the next few minutes. But just even if you might be able to give people a little bit of info. So how can others like become an initiate if you don't have to, it doesn't have to be hereditary or based on your social status?
So the door was open for everybody. Whoever wishes to become an initiate. In ancient Egypt, it was like this. You went for 2 years in the temple. You lived there, you had some teaching, you kind of found your feet. Did you like it? Was it for you or not? And after 2 years, you could decide, I'm going to take initiation into the mysteries. And what was the criterion? Was that it was, is your heart as light as a feather?
I
And
was
that
waiting for
means
that.
and, and that means that you have done the work, that you are not carrying the regrets, the pain, the trauma. You have done a lot of work, and you still carry some things, of course, but you are also in the goodness. You choose the justice. You choose to be a just and moral person, an ethical person. You work for the highest good and in service to all. So the ego is there. We all have the ego, but in some way we have done a lot of work to not operate out of our ego, to not project our ego, to not we do not embody that ego state, but we are able to come from that higher state of the heart. So they had this ceremony called the weighing of the heart. And
Yes.
what one of my spirit guides showed it to me, and it's in the book, the explanation, all of that there. But it's really interesting because he was so gifted. He was clairvoyant. He was so gifted, and he was kind of went there to the temple and loved it all his life. He was, since he was a child, he wanted to really be in the temple. And he goes to the temple and everybody says, oh, you're so gifted, you can see the gods and goddesses, etc. But he goes with that expectation, they will take me. And everybody says, you will get it. And he tries 8 times through the weighing of the heart. And every time they say, you are not ready, you have to do this ceremony, you have to go on a
How
pilgrimage in the
frustrating.
temple. Yeah, and he, before the initiation, in his mind he said, oh, one day I will be the high priest. He has already gone to the end, but he had to go through all the steps, and every step teaches him something. And what happens is the divine timing is so important, because they call it mat, divine justice, but also divine order. And during his when he had the final trial, if you like, the weighing of the heart, he looks into the eyes of this priestess who embodies Mad, and she has the feather that she puts on the scales, and all he sees is the cosmos, and he realizes, I am in divine order with the whole of creation. And he then hears people clapping and saying, well done, he got it, that
Now
everything
you're
was.
ready.
But he says, at that time I was in divine order, I was exactly where I'm meant to be. It was perfect. And then eventually he said, when he got old, he did become a high priest. But it was that time that says, you are in divine order with the universe. That's how you become an initiate. So this was in the ancient times, but I had an initiation from Isis, and that's why I'm saying to people, it is when you make the decision and you say, yes, I ask for help, I ask to be an initiate, and I teach this path, but also you can ask it for yourself. There are many ceremonies in the book. There is a ceremony there for initiation too. But what happened to me was, I woke up in the middle of the night. There was a column of light coming down into my solar plexus area. It was so strong that the reason I woke up was because the bed was shaking from side to side. It was like a paranormal phenomenon, and it was shaking
Oh,
physically from side to side. And usually I would have been spooked and run away. But in that moment, the only thought that came into my mind was, what will happen if I move out of this column of light? And I did
right.
that, and the shaking of the bed just intensified. So I thought, I better go back where I was.
Better stay in the light.
I better do that was the only thought. And I did that. And the next thing, I can't remember anything else. I woke up in the morning. I knew this had happened. And I went to work and came back. And I knew it had happened, but there was nothing to question it, which is also strange for me, because my mind would say, I want to know what happened. What was all that about? But there was no questions. So something was keeping this in the back of my head. And then in 2014, in a pilgrimage in Egypt that I was taking, Iset or Isis came and said, this is when we downloaded in your body all the information you were going to channel. We raised your vibration that you could do this, and we brought in your body also the program for your future life. So that taught me that maybe from that point onwards, I didn't have as much free will as I thought I had, because
But
it was
maybe I always say I wish I would have read. We're running out of time here. We got just a few minutes left. But I have to add this. I always say jokingly, your higher self knew, right, that this was going to probably be life changing. But then I always like to add for myself, anyways. I wish I would have read the fine print. Great. I have loved having you on here. Thank you guys for being here. I know you're chatting amongst yourselves and listening, and we're so grateful for you all being here. Fotoula, how can people buy your incredible book? How can they get a hold of you? I know your website I've looked at, there's all kinds of incredible courses, all kinds of things. So please, if you got anything coming up, please let people know.
So yes, please buy the book if you wish. If anything of this was of interest, there is so much information in the book and it's so beautifully written. It really makes sense. It's not an academic book or history book. It really is a spiritual book. And you can get it everywhere. You can get an ebook or paperback and from Amazon, from any and all sorts of others bookstores. And if you like it, you can also write a review if you like. I really appreciate it very, very much. And connect with me through the website. You can fill in a form, a contact form. There is also a newsletter once a month that has all that we are doing. And we're doing a lot. There is the path of the ancient Egyptian mysteries. There are webinars. We have a webinar coming up this week. That's right, on Sunday, the 30th of November. So there's a webinar about the Book of the Dead in ancient Egypt. So that is coming up. There are also the courses that involve the initiation in person and online, which are very deep and profound. And there's also the shamanic path that we never talked about, but because it's a completely different thing, but it's
We
part
just
of.
have to come back in I think I'm booking into April. So maybe in April we can have you back on. Hi, Janie. And we can talk about the shamanic path. We had Julie on recently talking about it. So we didn't even really dig deep into Atlantis because I have a million questions I wanted to ask you. No, I do want to let people know your website is going across the bottom. I meant to put my glasses on scrolling. If you can see, it is www. The ISIS School of Holistic Health.com, right?
That's right. That is schoolofholistichealth.com. And there is so much there because, as I said, Laura, all this knowledge keeps pouring off you and is so helpful. 20 years of work, being working in the healing profession and as a teacher, that means there is just so much depth, and you can look into the past life work that we do, and the Akashic records, the mysteries of ancient Egypt, shamanism, other things that we do, the priestess work, and all sorts of different things, and maybe you find something there. And in the newsletter, we have an article which is channeling from Isis as well about our times now.
I didn't even get to ask you about that, so I'm going to have you back on. So you guys, if you want to access that, like you can check out the website. Also, please go out and get the book. It's called Sacred Mysticism of Egypt, the Ancient Path of Heka Initiation. And I want to thank you for being here, Fotoula. I also want to thank everybody. People are saying terrific guest and great chat and enjoyed it. Don't go anywhere, guys. Coming up next in just a few minutes is The Light Gate with Preston Dennett and Dolly Preston. Also, you guys ever want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me on facebook.com/Angel Rock. And I do psychic and mediumship. I do crystal Reiki and energy healing. I do teaching and mentoring. Or you can reach out to me on any social media platform. I am working on my first courses I have talked to you guys about with one of my closest friends. She lives in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm in Canada, by the way. I may have not said that to you. We're all over the world here, the beauty of the internet. So when I do have the course that I'm hoping to go to a actual domain name website, you can find Leanne, who's working on the course with me, Leanne Clark. She's the Crystal Architect on Facebook and Instagram. So you guys can look for that because we're hoping to build a beautiful spiritual community and not, all kinds of things to bring people together. There's people all over the world doing this, like Fotoula, ourselves, and we all have a little bits and pieces all over. That's why it's cool to have talks like this and chats like this. So thank you again, Fotoula. Thank you to
Thank,
everybody that's here.
thank you so much, Lorelei. Thank you so much, everybody. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. So much love and good luck with everything.
And happy holidays. Oh, guys, don't forget Thursday, 7:10 p.m. Carrie Lynn and I are back with Beneath the Hollow Moon. Don't forget about the haunted, what did I say, holiday hotline or any spooky stories that you guys have. They don't have to be show related. You can send all of that to carrielinsporch@gmail.com or reach out to either one of us on social media if you've got a story you want to share. Love y'all. We'll see you Thursday, okay? Oh, next week we also, I know I'm running out of time here. I got to do this quickly. Angel, I know it's somebody, Julie Jean Bassett connected me with Angel. Oh, of course, now it doesn't want to let me in there. Angel's coming on. Incredible person. We're going to have a great show with them too. Okay, much love to y'all. Stay tuned for Dolly and Preston next, guys. We'll see you on Thursday.